Good morning. Since this sermon service is almost entirely poetry-based, our call to worship this morning are the words of T.S. Eliot. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know that place for the first time. Our meditation this morning, since we're focusing on poetry, are the words of our own poet laureate, Lisa Lofterheim. Please place yourself in a comfortable situation for the meditation, and when I'm finished reading, we will do a bit of silent meditation for a couple moments when I'm done reading. This is entitled, I Am a Child of the Universe. I am a child of the universe, belong to no clan, call no earthly acre home. As I dance across the Milky Way, I leave no footprints in the shining dust. From star to star, I glide on beams of light with the speed of dreams. Touching the blazing orb of the sun does not sear my hand. And at night, I rock myself to sleep in the waning arms of the moon's cool curve. When morning finds me gravity-bound, pouring tea, I wink at the planets. They know. Before I begin my sermon this morning, I wanted to bring your attention to our blue-gray hymnal. How many of you knew that the 7 principles were in here? Oh, look at you. Come on. All right, well, find them if you like this morning. Let's see, they are after the preface on the back of the page that says Singing the Living Tradition. And it's about the top third of the page where you can find the principles. I'll refer to them briefly as I present things in my sermon this morning, so if you want to refer to them as well and follow along, feel free to do so. I love poetry. I love poetry. And having said that, right now I imagine my high school teacher, English teacher, Helen Shantz, turning over in her grave. Because as a high school student, I dreaded poetry. But no more. Did I say I love poetry? Yeah. I chose this sermon hoping to share my love of poetry. It's poetry that moves my soul. It speaks to injustice. It lifts my spirit, gives me wings that take me away. Some of it makes me angry. Some of it brings tears, and thankfully, some of it brings laughter as well. As I was preparing the sermon, I thought surely it would be easy to find poems that reflect the values stated in our UU principles. Well, it was easy, a little too easy. It became a bit of a daunting endeavor, not because I couldn't find enough poems, but because I found far too many. Had I used every poem I found, we'd be easily here for 2 hours or more. So I was faced, everybody's going, 2 hours? So I was faced with the painful task of weeding out some poems that hold great meaning for me. And due to time considerations, I've had to eliminate some of my favorite poets. Mary Oliver, Rumi, Ted Kooser, Billy Collins, Jim Harrison, and others have been set aside this morning. I've chosen instead to focus on poets that may be a little unfamiliar to you, with a smattering of some old standbys thrown in, so you don't think I've gone way off into outer space. The poet Elizabeth Alexander says, "We crave words that shimmer, individual words with power, words to convey real truth." Ms. Alexander continues, "Poetry is what you find in the dirt in the corner, over here on the bus, God in the details, the only way to get from here to there." Poetry, she says, and now my voice is rising, is not all love, 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 and I'm sorry the dog died. Poetry, I hear myself loudest now, is the human voice. And are we not of interest to each other? Are we not of interest to each other? Once again, our Live Oak Poet Laureate Lisa Lofterhide says of poetry, "Poems are born to stand alone, detached from the pen that gives them life, separated from the womb where they warmed into being, unfettered by any memory of their conception." Of the poems I'm about to share, I'm sure you'll find some refer only to one of our principles, where others, as I discovered, move back and forth between all of our principles. And to share once again, Mr. Shel Silverstein, a poem from his book, Where the Sidewalk Ends, entitled "The Little Boy and the Old Man." Said the little boy, "Sometimes I drop my spoon." Said the old man, "I do that too." The little boy whispered, "I wet my pants." "I do that too," laughed the old man. Said the little boy, "I often cry." The old man nodded, "So do I." "But worst of all," said the boy, "it seems grown-ups don't pay attention to me." And he felt the warmth of a wrinkled old hand. "I know what you mean," said the little old man. Isn't it nice that we're part of a community where our children and our elders are both valued? So, a little help with this poem. Where do you think this poem fits in our principles? I hear the inherent worth and dignity of our first principle and the acceptance of one another mentioned in our third principle. Let's move on to one of my very young poets, Sarah Kay. Some of you may recognize Sarah, some maybe the first time. I first discovered Sarah Kay's poetry almost 8 years ago by way of a TED Talk. Some of you may have seen her spoken word poem, "If I Should Have a Daughter." Well, she's gone on to give many performances and is now the founder and co-director of an organization called Project Voice. The video you're about to see is from her 2015 commencement address to the graduates of Scripps College. And I've included
the first girl I met as a freshman in college ended up being my best friend in the world. She is the smartest, bravest, strongest woman I have ever known.
Possible to move that back so we can hear it again?
You go ahead and finish what you said.
Just,
You want to go to the video now?
yeah, just play it, yeah.
The first girl I met as a freshman in college ended up being my best friend in the world. She is the smartest, bravest, strongest woman I have ever known. But by the end of our senior year, she wound up in a relationship with a man we had both trusted that eventually became abusive. I racked my brain and heart, trying to figure out how I could stop it. What could I say to convince her that she deserved so much better than this? How could I prove to her that she was worthy of a love that did not hurt? But she could not hear me. I think that sometimes the people who love us most in the world are the ones it is hardest for us to hear. For weeks, I searched for a solution or words to offer or something to do with my hands. I discovered a poem by a man named Richard Sykin, and in it he writes, "Everyone needs a place. It shouldn't be inside of someone else." I carried that line around with me for weeks, and finally it found its way to this poem. I wrote it for her, but today I share it with you. If you grow up the type of woman men want to look at, you can let them look at you. Do not mistake eyes for hands, or windows, or mirrors. Let them see what a woman looks like. They may not have ever seen one before. If you grow up the type of woman men want to touch, you can let them touch you. Sometimes it is not you they are reaching for. Sometimes it is a bottle, a door, a sandwich, a Pulitzer, another woman, but their hands found you first. Do not mistake yourself for a guardian, or a muse, or a promise, or a victim, or a snack. You are a woman. Skin and bones, veins and nerves, hair and sweat. You are not made of metaphors, not apologies, not excuses. If you grow up the type of woman men want to hold, you can let them hold you. All day, they practice keeping their bodies upright. Even after all this evolving, it still feels unnatural, still strains the muscles, holds firm the arms and spine. Only some men will want to learn what it feels like to curl themselves into a question mark around you. Admit they do not have the answers they thought they would by now. Some men will want to hold you like the answer. You are not the answer. You are not the problem. You are not the poem or the punchline or the riddle or the joke. Woman, if you grow up the type men want to love, you can let them love you. Being loved is not the same thing as loving. When you fall in love, it is discovering the ocean after years of puddle jumping. It is realizing that you have hands. It is reaching for the tightrope when the crowds have all gone home. Do not spend time wondering if you are the type of woman men will hurt. If he leaves you with a car alarm heart, you may learn to sing along. It is hard to stop loving the ocean, even after it has left you gasping, salty. So forgive yourself for the decisions you have made, the ones you still call mistakes when you tuck them in at night. And know this, know you are the type of woman who is searching for a place to call yours. Let the statues crumble. You have always been the place. You are a woman who can build it yourself. You were born to build.
I encourage you to try and find Sarah Kay on the internet. She's got some amazing spoken word poems. I love her voice. I love the movement of her hands, her facial expressions, all of which contribute to her poetry. And in this poem, I hear equity, justice, the search for truth and meaning, all found in our UU principles. I can only hope that someday, and if any of you have any connections with UCSB Arts and Lectures, we can bring Sarah Kay here so we can see her in person. Our next poet is a gentleman named Eric Cockrell. He's been writing poems since he was 18. Eric Cockrell is now 75. I've only ever seen a picture of him. His face is a roadmap of the pain and issues that he's had to deal with all of his life. He wears a cowboy hat. He has a big, bushy, white mustache. Listen and see if you can hear, once again, justice, equity, and compassion reflected in this untitled poem. I spit hammers and nails, can taste bullets and swords. My eyes are the bodies of the innocent that lay dying. My fingers touch the ribs of small children starving. My tongue is made of coal dust, oil, and death by prophet. My ears hear the cry of freedom from the cells of the oppressor. My heart sleeps beneath the bridge with the homeless family at night. My arms carry the weight of the working class's lives. Covered with the stink of poverty, I shed the clothes of pretensions, apathy, and human greed. And my desire grows hard when I see a better day. My back bears the stripes of man's mistakes and failures. I cry justice. I am equality. I breathe compassion. I am human. Next, we have another video. A young, once again, spoken word poet. His name is Malcolm London. Malcolm recently graduated from Lincoln Park High School in the inner city of Chicago, and now, fortunately for him, attends the University of Chicago. The Chicago Tribune said of him, and I quote, "Malcolm London is young, black, and talented, and that is a guarantee of nothing."
At 7:45 a.m., I opened the doors to a building dedicated to building, yet only breaks me down. I march down hallways cleaned up after me every day by regular janitors, but I never had the decency to honor their names. Lockers left open like teenage boys' mouths when teenage girls wear clothes that covers their insecurities but exposes everything else. Masculinity mimicked by men who grew up with no fathers. Camouflage worn by bullies who are dangerously armed but need hugs. Teachers pay less than what it costs them to be here. Oceans of adolescents come here to receive lessons but never learn to swim. Part like the Red Sea when the bell rings. This is a training ground. My high school is Chicago, diverse and segregated on purpose. Social lines are barbed wire. Labels like regulars and honors resonate. I am in honors, but go home with regular students who are soldiers in territory that owns them. This is a training ground to sort out the regulars from the honors, a reoccurring cycle built to recycle the trash of this system. Trained at a young age to capitalize, letters taught. Now the capitalism raises you, but you have to step on someone else to get there. This is a training ground where one group is taught to lead and the other is made to follow. No wonder so many of my people spit bars, because the truth is hard to swallow. The need for degrees has left so many people frozen. Homework is stressful. But when you go home every day and your home is work, you don't want to pick up any assignments. Reading textbooks is stressful, but reading does not matter when you feel your story is already written, either dead or getting booked. Taking tests is stressful. But bubbling in a Scantron does not stop bullets from bursting. I hear education systems are failing, but I believe they're succeeding at what they're built to do, to train you, to keep you on track, to track down an American dream that has failed so many of us all.
This young man, pardon me, is so compassionate about the injustice of life stories that have already been written, and the inner city education systems that trap so many who are poor and people of color. How could one not want to rise up and fight that injustice after hearing his words? His words and performance help me see through his eyes, the eyes of someone who's been there and lived it. Continuing now, a familiar name, Alice Walker. This is a poem from her book entitled Hard Times Require Furious Dancing. I love that title. For me, this poem makes our sixth principle, a goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, come alive. It's entitled Calling All Grandmothers. We have to live differently, or we will die in the same old ways. Therefore, I call on all grandmothers everywhere on the planet to rise and take your place in the leadership of the world. Come out of the kitchen, out of the fields, out of the beauty parlors, out of the television. Step forward and assume the role for which you were created, to lead humanity to health, happiness, and sanity. I call on all the grandmothers of Earth and every person who possesses the grandmother spirit of respect for life and protection of the young to rise and lead. The life of our species depends on it. And I call on all men of Earth to gracefully and gratefully stand aside and let them do so. What about it, gentlemen? Are we ready to step aside? Or being good Unitarian Universalists, should we step alongside the grandmothers and those who possess the grandmother spirit? Our final poet this morning is one of the grand dames of American poetry, Maya Angelou. If you were watching the Olympics, I'm sure you saw this ad at least a dozen times. It's Maya Angelou speaking as you watch an iPhone ad. Well, that was a shortened version of her poem, The Human Family. The pictures in this video, by the way, are all of Maya Angelou in various stages of her life.
Human family. I note the obvious differences in the human family. Some of us are serious, some thrive on comedy. Some declare their lives are lived as true profundity, and others claim they really live the real reality. The variety of our skin tones can confuse, bemuse delight, brown and pink and beige and purple, tan and blue and white. I've sailed upon the 7 seas and stopped in every land. I've seen the wonders of the world, not yet one common man. I know 10,000 women called Jane and Mary Jane. I've not seen any two who really were the same. Mirror twins are different, although their features jibe, and lovers think quite different thoughts while lying side by side. We love and lose in China. We weep on England's moors, and laugh and moan in Guinea, and thrive on Spanish shores. We seek success in Finland, are born and die in Maine. In minor ways we differ, in major we're the same. I note the obvious differences between each sort and type, but we are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike.
We are indeed more alike, my friends, than unalike. All of these poems have enhanced my understanding and depth of feeling for our UU principles. I hope they've spoken to you in some way this morning, whether they've opened your eyes to a different way of seeing, touched your heart, made you angry, or have sung your song. I must admit that sometimes when I look at the UU principles, they look and sound a bit dry. Surely there's no doubt they are well written and that many hours of wordsmithing went into them. But for me, poets have breathed life into them. So I encourage you to look at our UU principles in the light of poetry and find poems that you feel deep in your soul reveal the true nature of our faith. Thank you. If you would remain standing, please, and join hands. Our final words this morning, believe it or not, is yet another poem. This one by Nancy Wood, entitled "Hold On to What Is Good." Hold on to what is good, even if it's a handful of earth. Hold on to what you believe in, even if it is a tree which stands by itself. Hold on to what you must do, even if it is a long way from here. Hold on to life, even when it's easier letting go. Hold on to my hand, even when I have gone away from you.